Hello everybody and welcome to MSI Cooldown. I'm Yinsu and I'm joined here by Vedius and Jatt. Guys, who would have thought the T1 were going to finish this off with a bit of a perfect record? Yeah, not me, not me.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping, we're always hoping for the big upset, right? Especially during MSI Group stage when you have such overwhelming favorites like RNG and T1. It's also only the second year we've been having this format, and you're really seeing like the #1 team from the #1 or 2 region dominates these early rounds. It's so, I don't want to say unfair for DFM, but it's a lofty goal to try and take a game off.
It's one of those things where you look at the kills and you're thinking, this game is close, this game is competitive, but then you look at the gold and you're like, this isn't close. Unfortunately, what was happening a lot in the early game was that while DFM were finding kills, they weren't really converting it into a lot. Meanwhile, T1 were finding CS advantages, FLICKR was consistently solo killing his lane opponent, tower plates were being taken, objectives were being gained, and T1 basically were much better at converting small advantages into bigger map-wide advantages. And unfortunately, DFM now find themselves in a bit of a difficult situation with the groups after losing to both Saigon and
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to DFM, I gotta say, Vedi, you've been a pretty vocal stan of LJL, so do you not believe in them anymore? Because I've not been hearing much of that from you.
Yeah, my faith is very rapidly dwindling. With the introduction of their new mid laner in particular, I think that so far he hasn't really left the same impression on me as previous mid laners of the roster. In particular, I am slightly Seros biased.
Brings out the ruler, checks his distance to the monitor. You're like, he's so organized.
Yeah, exactly. I love that in my mid laners. But that doesn't mean that all the chips are down for them. Their position isn't the worst in the world. They find themselves with 1 and 2. It's definitely still possible. The problem they face is that Saigon Buffalo just seems unleashed right now. Their confidence, their bravado, the way they execute upon the map is just relentless aggression, and it's working out for them. Teams just cannot, well, except for T1, slow them down.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at the kind of the 3 days we saw, if we're going to talk about like Group A right now, the original T1 versus Saigon Buffalo day, our original impression was that, oh, T1 is like a little sloppy.
Yeah.
Or they're playing the second best team in the group. Like, that's what it looks like now in hindsight. But I've also seen tons of World Championship group stages because the group stage at Worlds is the same number of games in 14 groups. Like 2-1, 1-2, that's actually not even a lead. Because all DFM has to do is beat Saigon in the rematch, and you're into a tiebreaker with them. So that'll be the big game that I'll circle. We won't see the conclusion of that group until 3 days from now. They're going to be the last group to close out. But that's going to be the huge rematch. And like in the seat now, obviously we're going to say Saigon is the favorite because they won the last game. But man, so much can change in a couple days.
I mean, we just saw that in terms of the group standings. Is this now really just a race for second place? Like, are we really confident that those teams leading right now, that's not even a question anymore. They're just going to get out and everyone is kind of fighting for second?
I genuinely believe that T1, RNG, and G2 will all go undefeated. In
Ooh. Undefeated?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I don't know. Why?
Well,
I agree with a lot of his statement.
Well, I think that the T1 and RNG, let's start with RNG because they're the easiest. Right now, often top teams, when they come into a group situation, they will show little respect to their opposition. They'll think that they're worse, they'll think they don't need to prep as much drafts, and then they'll get caught off by a certain pick, they'll disrespect in lane, and they'll lose an early game with which they can't come back from because their composition is too linear or it doesn't give them enough options, right? However, RNG have shown the utmost respect and a huge amount of prep regardless of who their opposition is, and their execution is clean as well. When we look at T1, they're the ones that are like a little shaky, but it never feels like that they're ever really losing control of the game. They're just kind of having a little bit of fun. They're being a little bit loose in terms of their execution. And I think a lot of that comes from their laning phase. But the second they get out of lane, they look unstoppable. Now, G2 is probably the one that both of you have the most question marks. Do I really think that they will go undefeated? Right now, based on what I've seen from G2, they are showing the same level of prep and dedication in terms of drafts that RNG is showing to their opposition. I think that they have enough draft flexibility to be able to answer, and I don't think EG or Order have enough in their pool to be able to shut them down. And I basically think the question is, do I think G2 will throw any of the games? And after that near loss to EG, I do not think that they will. I think that they're genuinely really committed to getting that win streak going so they can fight T1 with the undefeated streak.
I was just thinking, I was like counting up all their wins in my head because on one hand, so their group is going to conclude 2 days from now.
Yes.
Group C. On one hand, it is hard to win 4 games in a day.
True.
Because they'll have to win 2 games against EG and 2 games against Order. And I said at the start of the tournament, like, I don't expect Order to go 0-8. Like, I just think because, like, best of 1 format, you can just, like, take a game. But at the same time, like, that's a 16-game win streak they're on now.
Yeah.
That's the longest win streak G2's ever had, right?
Like,
I haven't verified, but just in my head,
I
can never remember them winning that many games in a row. So
are you convinced?
They're on a hot streak.
Are you convinced by that?
No.
Why are you not convinced by that?
Because they're just going to lose one.
G2? Just the G2
just
thing?
Lose one.
But you're convinced by the RNG and the T1
Yeah,
portions, just
I
not
think
the
it's
G2.
very low likelihood that they lose a game because, one, I think the pooling system has actually been pretty accurate so far if you think about the way they drew the teams. Like the Pool 1 teams, T1, RNG, G2, super strong. Then you go Pool 2, Pool 3, Pool 4.
DFM shouldn't be Pool 4, though.
Yeah, I think they should be Pool 3, but I don't actually know exactly how that system,
I don't understand
that system works. But like Saigon Buffalo is the Pool 2 team. They're second place, right? The group where it's the strangest is actually PSG, who was a Pool 2 team we thought was going to be top heavy, but they're looking weaker. So like the gap between the Pool 1 and everyone else is just so big. And I'd say the strongest Pool 2 team is NA. I don't actually think that's a controversial statement.
I agree.
Which, if the weakest Pool 1 team is G2 and the strongest Pool 2 team is EG, that's a higher likelihood of it being a game. So I think they're going to drop like
probability-wise, he makes a fair argument, but I'm not convinced.
I'm looking forward to seeing if you're going to be right or wrong about this. But of course,
I'm right.
Oh, we'll see. We spoke a little bit about the Saigon Buffaloes already, and I had the pleasure of catching up with their top laner, Hasmed, in the Verizon post-game interview. I'm now joined by Hasmed. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. Massive congratulations on your victory today. But first, I wanted to ask you about the fact that we do have a team from the VCS for the first time in more than 2 years. How proud are you right now to be representing your region?
Thì đầu tiên là chúc mừng bạn vì đã có một chiến thắng rất là thành công ha. Thì câu hỏi đầu tiên là cho bạn là bạn cảm giác như thế nào khi được đại diện cho khu vực VCS thi đấu tại giải đấu quốc tế sau 2 năm vắng bóng?
Em khá cảm thấy may mắn và nuối tiếc vì trước đó VCS của mình đã vô địch tại giải VCS và không được tham dự giải đấu quốc tế. Và lần này thì bọn em là SGB và hay mặc được đại diện VCS để tham dự MSI tại giải đấu lần này và em rất cảm thấy may mắn và hạnh phúc.
So I feel very unfortunate for the former VCS champions because like even though they win the split, they could not attend MSI or World Championships. So we feel extremely lucky, happy and honored to be representing VCS this time.
I know you guys are a very young team, but if we look at your schedule in the VCS, you play a lot of games, more games than some of the other regions players do. How much do you think that's actually helped you to gain experience and also be a little bit, improve even a little bit faster than some of the other players?
Thì mặc dù mình là một đội rất là trẻ nhưng mà mình chơi rất là nhiều trận đấu tại giải đấu VCS, thậm chí là mình là một trong những đội có số trận đấu nhiều nhất trên thế giới. Thì bạn nghĩ là cái điều này có giúp cho team mình xây dựng cái kinh nghiệm cho những cái giải đấu lớn như này không?
Dạ thì em thì dù team em vẫn còn rất trẻ nhưng tụi em đã được đánh rất là nhiều cặp trận BO3 và tụi em đã đánh tới ván 3 lần. Cho nên nó cũng có mặt lợi và mặt hại. Mặt lợi vì bọn em đã đánh được nhiều ván và cũng đúc kết nhiều kinh nghiệm ở những ván đấu đó, nhưng mà hại là bọn em đã không đánh được triệt để. Vâng.
So you're right in the sense that even though we are a young team, we play a lot of games and we play a lot of best of 3 and a lot of them go to game 3 as well. So there's like a good side to it and there's the bad side to it. The good side to it is that we got to practice a lot and gain a lot of experience through those games. But the bad side of it is that we have not played it perfectly and we want to improve upon that.
And lastly, you guys are in a great position right now in your group, and now you're sitting on a couple of important wins. How are you feeling for the rest of group stage?
Thì bây giờ là mình đang có một vị trí rất là thuận lợi để kết thúc vòng bảng này, thì bạn đang cảm giác như thế nào về vị trí của team ở thời điểm hiện tại?
Về vị trí của xếp hạng ở hiện tại thì em cảm thấy rất là vui mừng vì bọn em đã có được 2 điểm. Nhưng bọn em cũng phải dè chừng và chắc chắn được về nữa, nên bọn em không thể nào mà không bị ngủ lên trên chiến thắng được. Bọn em cũng vẫn phải cố gắng để còn được về nữa.
So I feel very comfortable and very happy with our current position, but we have to be cautious and be laser focused on the second round robin as well. We don't want to sleep on our victories, and we want to finish this group stage our very best.
We want you to finish this group stage at your very best as well. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time. Now, I kind of asked them the question of, you know, you guys are a young team, but you've played a lot of games. And to put that into perspective, their support player, Taki, debuted in 2021, and he's already played 158 games. They played 100 games between Worlds and now. 100. So people might be looking at them like they're the second seed from VCS, you know, they're very young, but I feel like very surely that means something, that much experience.
Yeah, I mean, it does. There are some LEC players that have been playing for like 2-3 years that don't have that many games yet. That's crazy. Yeah. Competitive matches, whenever you speak to a pro as well, they'll always tell you that like that experience is always going to be different to what you get in scrims, because it's like this more try-hard mentality. But I guess the counter-argument is when you play so many games, the line between scrim and stage game probably gets blurred a little bit more. And that's also what I love to see from this team, because again, relentless aggression, you know, a steam train with knives. Like, that's how I describe them. But like, that's really how I see them when I see them play, because they don't let anything get in their way. And I always think of like how there's a lot of pros out there, in solo queue especially, they'll turn their nameplates off, right? Because you don't want to be intimidated, or you don't want to stop to think of who it is that you're playing against. And I feel like that these players just do not care about who is up against them on the Rift. They're just going to do what they know, play their style, stick to their guns, and they do a very effective job of doing it.
Yeah, and when it comes to the picks that they play as well, I'm a little bit disappointed so far, because coming into this, I thought they're just going to whip out things that maybe we've never even seen. They're kind of known to do that. But do you guys feel like maybe they don't have room to do it right now?
I mean, honestly, I think the Ziggs bottom lane was spicy enough.
Yeah.
I did actually like their TF Ziggs draft when they were able to win in 20 minutes and 40 seconds, which was actually 4 seconds faster than T1, who beat Ace.
Ooh.
So there is a common denominator between those two games. And it's very good teams winning. So I think they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great summation. And I mean, statistically, that means that Saigon beats T1 in one aspect, even if they can't beat them on the Rift. See what I mean?
They beat Ace in 4 fewer seconds.
Yes, and I like that.
Yeah.
But also, it sets us up really nicely for the rematch, mainly because the last time they did meet, it was just a massacre in the bot lane. Both bot lanes were just trading kills left, right, and center. The junglers were getting involved.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hype, and I feel like that this team has lofty ambitions, and so I'm excited to see what they can achieve.
They had me in the first half the last time they played against each other. I think I got overhyped. As soon as that first team fight broke out, I was like, oh my goodness, they're actually going to win. But you guys know what happened. But looking at the way the groups are going to be for the next stage, do you guys feel like they're the ones that are getting out? Do you feel confident enough to back them?
I'm not confident that they will get out, but I do think they're the favorites. I don't think we've seen the best out of DFM. Like, if I play that DFM back, I thought they were probably winning a lot of the game, but had some poor teamfight execution. So, yeah, I very weak prediction for you. It's like a 50-50 for me right now. I don't have a good answer.
I'm going to believe in Saigon. I think that they're good enough.
You're abandoning your LJL
abandoning
boys?
DFM. Yes.
What?
They're just, I don't know. They're not the same for me, Yinsu. They're just not the same.
Oh, okay. To be fair, I'm with you. I'm on the Saigon train.
I'm a Shogun
the Steam
fan
train.
now.
Yeah, me too. Now, every second counts, of course, and thanks to the reliable Cisco network, RNG Scala secured the first pentakill of MSI 2020 against Red a little bit earlier. And again, who would have thought that this would be the first penta, and a beautiful one too.
Yeah, and they almost tried to set it up to get him a second penta. They definitely took their time ending the game after this one, hoping to have a more favorable fight. The ridiculous combo of Lucian Nami when they're ahead like this, I called it like Draven with a dash, but look at how much distance he closes. So he was a good like 2,500 units behind Victor. And he catches up to him that quickly with Nami speed, dash, Gale Force, and flash. Pretty lethal.
Yeah, this champ is strong.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was already strong. Many regions were actually playing a lot of Lucian Nami, especially in Europe, Rogue's bot lane was very well known for it. A bunch of different teams could play it as well. But when many of the staples in Jinx, Aphelios, the problem was that they always had the scaling element, and they could weather the storm long enough for it to not be a problem. But now that a lot of these scaling options have actually kind of been removed from the pool, I'm a little surprised to see Aphelios kind of almost fall off a cliff. But it does seem that aggression back in the bot lane is what we're seeing. A lot of the Samiras, a lot of the Lucians, a lot of these bot laners that basically want to fight you and want to get those early kills.
I mean, we talked a lot about what's working, right? You guys already know the meta's kind of defining itself, but what hasn't worked for you guys? What's something that you would rather not see going into the next kind of stage of the round robin?
So what hasn't worked has been the slower stuff. Yes. I think generally, like, at least in NA towards the end, there was a lot of like Victor, Corki, Azir. The games are too fast right now for that. And part of that could be just the difference in strength of the team. So games running like 25 minutes, so you're never in a close enough game to get to the item breakpoints that matter. So I'm not willing to call the like scaling mid laners dead, but they're definitely dead for now. Like if you're trying to beat RNG or T1, you're never going to do it with one of those champions.
Yeah, I will say that the return of Gwen, I think, has actually done a lot to the meta because Gwen did get a massive nerf, right? And so pretty much all across the world, Jace was considered like the safest blind pick, but Ornn was a champion that could like weather the storm and then offer more value in teamfights later. And he was a difficult champion to dive to. Gwen is someone that could just independently do very well against Ornn. Yep. So as a result of that, if she's constantly being blind picked, and the most common draft rate she's seeing is Wukong Gwen, or like Graves Gwen, or just she's considered right now a very safe, reliable blind top that does well in teamfights, scales inside, and because of that shift, along with hyper-aggressive bot lanes, you then have a lot of flexibility in mid, but we're seeing a lot faster-paced games where this slower scaling style, and you've been talking a lot about it coming into the tournament, the Herald priority versus Dragon
just
priority.
Get gold and then snowball the game quickly.
And Herald is definitely the bigger, more important objective right now. And teams that have top lanes that they can leverage to gain priority to play around that objective, or bot lanes that they can bring up that can, like a Lucian level 6, that's all you need to go for a fight around the Herald. So
nobody's winning with Dragon Stack right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's like dead. I think we'll see a little bit more of that in Rumble stage, but for now it's not happening.
I didn't realize that teams outside of G2 were allowed to pick Pyke, so I'm feeling like everybody should just choose Pyke at least once and just have a Pyke off and see who's
how
actually...
it's going.
Yeah.
How does this champ work?
When T1 locked it in, I was like, you're not G2. What's going on?
But that is Carrier.
True. That is
he was quite a monster
everything
on it today,
Yeah. And speaking of those teams, let's take a look on what is happening tomorrow, because tomorrow Group B is going to be decided by the end of the day. We're going to know for sure which team is going to be getting out. Again, you guys spoke a little bit about RNG and your expectations for them, but what about the rest of them? Because it's 1 and 2 for everybody else right now.
It is quite a open field in Group B, and I probably have the least faith in the Wildcats right now. I think that while they were able to beat Red,
in front of me,
I know, I'm sorry. But I think that what they showcased was their early games are weak, and every single team has been able to take advantage of their early games so far, and PSG talent is only getting better as the days go by. So my expectations are that it's going to be a fight between Red Canids and PSG, and that is the game that will determine who will actually be getting out of this group, personally.
I'll right now say, I'm not on tomorrow, so I can just, PSG is going to win 2 games. They'll be 3-3. RNG is going to 6-0, and PSG is going through.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. No, I think the Wildcats have a good chance. I think once every team drafts all of their bans towards Holy Phoenix, where he can't even just play anymore, everyone else is going to come online. They're going to rescue him out of that situation.
I respect your optimism.
At least I'm sticking with my team.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah. We on this League of Legends analyst desk are famous for flip-flopping.
Yeah, I mean, you're on
an analyst desk with Raz, the greatest flip-flopper of all.
Flip-flopping. He just like...
You did just completely throw your LJL boys, like, under the bus.
Yeah, but I also did say G2, RNG, T1 undefeated. First stage. I'm sticking with that.
Remember that, you guys. Remember that. Let's see what's going to happen tomorrow. But I just want to give you guys a reminder that we're going to be starting the show 2 hours early with MSI Cooldown at 7:45 CEST, or for Jatt's sleep schedule and Americans, that is 11:45 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. And that was all from us for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And make sure you come back here to see what is going to happen in Group B. We'll see you then.